Hi, I'm Hauck. This is Dimitri. He's going to help me show the Kimura from the north-south corner hold. So what I'm going to show is the Kimura from the north-south corner hold. The corner hold is when you're laying over the opponent's shoulder like this, sort of diagonal, so that your spine is in line, sort of lined up with the line that's created by his right hip and his left shoulder. I want to be back so my chin doesn't really go any further south than his sternum or his diaphragm. Okay, so this is the positioning. It's different than the north-south position because I'm not putting my face over his belly. Excuse me, I'm not putting my belly over his face, okay? This position, the person, if he's strong, he can push on your hips, right? Or if you go underneath, he can push on your chin with both hands. No, yep, yeah, exactly. But, so if this guy can bench press a lot, he's very strong here. But if you lay over here on the shoulder, in the corner hold, notice my hips are in a much more awkward position for him. So even if he can put his hands on my hips, he can't do much to push me away. Because a person can bench press a lot like this, but how much can they bench press like this? Not much, okay? Plus, what you're doing, if you notice my right arm is over, and I'm elbowing his elbow, and I'm grabbing high up in his armpits. This takes this arm kind of out of the game. The other arm goes underneath, my other arm goes underneath his other arm, so I have an over-under position, and I've got the diagonal positioning we talked about, and I've got my chin just north of his diaphragm, or north of his, the lowest part of his sternum. Okay, so this is the position. The feel you want in this technique is kind of to squash his shoulder. I'm using my center line on his shoulder here, so I'm going like this. All my weight is on this shoulder, using this part of my body. All right, it's called a corner hold or one-point pin. You're just pinning one corner of the person's body. I don't care about his hips. I don't care if this comes off the ground. I just need to keep the shoulder that's underneath my sternum on the ground. Okay, so this is the positioning. When I want to go for the arm bar, I'm going to back off completely so there's no weight whatsoever on his arm. Put my forearm as deep as possible inside his armpit. And I'm going to keep my elbow in. I don't need to grab anything. Okay? I'm going to squeeze my elbow in. I'm going to drive his left shoulder to his right hip. It's like this. It's very uncomfortable for him. I'm not rolling him up and I'm not rolling him to the side. I'm imagining like, you know, he's a piece of origami, and it's a dotted line across his torso like this. And I'm going to try to touch his left shoulder to his right hip. I'm going to try to do this to him, okay? So again, I back off, go as deep in the armpit as possible. I'm going to try to fold him. Push down on the arm. Bring this leg up. I want this knee against his ribs, and I want the foot away from the body, so it acts as sort of an outrigger. If I have my foot close to him, I don't have very good base if he bridges. Okay? So I want this leg out, the knee in like an outrigger. I'm going to grab the figure four. And then one great trick here is, instead of holding it up like this, is to straighten your left arm. In this case, your left arm, the arm that's grabbing your own wrist. Straighten it out like that. So Dimitri, go to your back. So he's stuck on his side because I'm straightening my left arm. I'm putting his fist on his torso, straightening my left arm. Now, even with my knee out, he can't go to his back. But if I put my knee there, it's really hard for him to go to the back. So the person is stuck here. You only need to hold this position for about a second. And then you can go for your submission. You're going to pull up the arm to 90 degrees, squeeze both of your knees, and then, very important, push your hips forward as you twist to the left. Okay? If I simply pull the arm in and I don't push forward, and he bridges, I can be kind of unstable here. Okay? But if I push my hips forward as I do the submission, I still have them. Okay? One last time. Here, here. Back off so you get as deep as possible in the armpit. Drive forward, hips down. I'm going to pin this arm on the right side. Kneel over the arm. Grab the figure four. Squeeze my knee in, hips forward. I'm going to make sure his elbow is away from his ribs here. So he cannot go to his back. Then I'm going to pull it up, Squeeze my knees, hips forward, push on the hand and look behind me. Okay. Common problem number 1. You're in position, but instead of driving diagonal, you kind of sit the person up. And he escapes. Okay? Again, the person will do this. They'll just sit up as you go for it. And they'll get out. All right? Common problem number 2. These people come too much to the side and they roll the person on their side and the opponent gets up to his knees. Okay? The answer to both of these problems is the same. You have to insist on having a diagonal line trying to, touch the person's left shoulder to the right hip. When you bring these 2 points together, the person can't sit up and they can't roll to the right. Okay? So this is what it looks like. Feel the elbow, back off, and with full pressure, this is what it looks like. If you feel pressure there? Yeah. Okay. All right, common problem number 3 is you come up with the Kimura, you get to the position, and the person, of course, grabs your belt. It's sort of a byproduct of doing it this way. I really like still doing it this way because it's so powerful keeping the person on their side. But people will grab their belt or their gi, but it's really not a big issue. There's many ways to deal with it. I'm just going to show one simple one, which is called a bounce and rip. I'm going to keep the figure 4 positioning. I'm not going to squeeze my hands too tight. Because when you squeeze your hands tight, even if he doesn't know much jiu-jitsu, he's going to squeeze tight to defend. He doesn't know what's coming, but he knows when you're gripping him tight, he's got to protect tight. Okay? So I'm going to keep my figure 4. I'm going to open up the elbow away from the ribs by straightening my left arm. And then I'm simply going to bounce my torso so that on the back of his tricep, so his hand hits the ground. I'm going to bounce and rip it the wrong way. Come back with my knees, squeeze my knees, hips forward, more. Again, he grabs his belt. Here, I'm going to make sure I have good positioning with my leg where I feel comfortable. I'm going to get my center of gravity as close to his center of gravity as possible. Open up the elbow, bounce and rip. Make sure you keep it up. You don't bring the Kimura back like this because he'll grab his gi again. All right? You don't want the hand down. You want to bounce and rip. Keep it up, 90 degrees. Squeeze your knees, hips forward, and apply the Kimura. Common problem number 4 is in the beginning of the technique, if you grab too low, if I grab this person's belt or their gi down here, he can simply grab my sleeve and punch it off, then he can get up. And that's hard for me to stop because he's crossing my arm across his body. Okay? I mentioned this briefly when I was showing the technique the first time, but what you want to do to prevent that is elbow the person's underarm with your elbow to bring the elbow high. Now look where I grab with my hand. I grab about this armpit, or where scapula is on the back, and I put my fists on the ground. So now if he goes to grab my hand, grab my hand, even if he can get under my elbow to grab it, punch it off. He has no strength whatsoever there. He cannot punch that off. Punch it off, try again. There's no strength. But if I go down here, grab the sleeve, punch it off, he can get up. So that's the Kimura from the north-south corner hold. Of course, there's many options when you get to the north-south corner hold. That's just one of them. Thank you, Dimitri, for your help. Please subscribe to my page. I will be uploading new techniques every couple weeks. Thanks a lot.